volunteer at New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. These are the social handles on which you can connect with me, my Twitter and LinkedIn profile. And in case you have any doubt related to Salesforce, please feel free to reach me out. So this is a brief about the New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. Our first revival meetup was held in Feb 2016. These are the Twitter handles and the hashtags which we follow. Impact Salesforce Saturday is an initiative run online by the New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. In this, we are conducting many technical as well as non-technical sessions. For the past session and the upcoming sessions, you can visit our website. Also, in case you want to revisit some sessions, you can go to our website and find the session recordings as well. Talent Central is an initiative taken up by the New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. It is a kind of Naukri.com or Monster.com where we can find the job opening according to the requirement of the candidates. So it basically bridges up the job requirement as well as the candidates looking for job in Salesforce ecosystem. And these are some success stories of the Talent Central. Another initiative taken by New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group is Let's Implement. Here, mentee and mentors are connected with each other. Some practical projects and scenario-based learning has been provided to each mentee by the mentors, and they have been closely monitored by their mentor. So, in case you are looking for some mentor in your Salesforce ecosystem who can guide you with your learning, please do reach out here. Journey to Salesforce is the program taken up by Salesforce Developer Relation Team, and it's basically a program which helps the non-Salesforce background IT people who are looking to switch their career in Salesforce ecosystem. There are some trail mixes, also career opportunities are given once the aspirant move ahead in their journey. These are the top contributors of the New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. We would especially like to thank few of them for their immense contribution and social media presence. Kaveen Kohli, Shalini, Aman, Divya. Also, these are the top contributors of our community. And these are the social handles on which you can connect with the New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. This is the website, YouTube channel, Twitter handle, LinkedIn, and Telegram. Thanks to our sponsors, Cloud1 and Greyhoppers for their support. And thank you so much once again, everyone, for joining. I hope you get a great learning experience here. Thank you. Yeah, over to you, David, please. You are not audible. I'm sorry. You are on mute.
You should be able to see my presentation, right? Can you, first of all, can you hear me?
Sorry, David, you are not.
Testing, 1, 2. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so are you able to see my presentation right now?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, wonderful. So we're going to be talking about how to build your personal brand in order to grow your Salesforce career. That's what we're going to be talking about. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is David Giller. I'm a former attorney turned, I call myself Salesforce Geek. I started Brainiate, which is a Salesforce consulting partner where I do consulting for companies that are using Salesforce or brand new to Salesforce, as well as Salesforce training. I'm also a Salesforce user group leader for the Northern New Jersey user group in the US. You can also find me on social media on your whatever is your favorite social media platform. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover. We're going to cover what is a personal brand. What do we mean by personal brand? We're going to be talking about why is it important to create a personal brand. We're going to be talking about how to go about putting together your personal brand, and then how to share your personal brand. So let's first define personal brand. What is personal brand? And first, let's talk about what it is not. What it's not. It's not about getting likes on social media. It's not about the number of followers that you have. It's not about the number of connections that you have. It's not about the number of Facebook friends that you have. And it's not about how many people subscribe to your content online. It's not a popularity contest. So what is personal brand? Well, The Wikipedia definition basically has that personal branding is the ongoing process of establishing a prescribed image or an impression in the mind of other people. And it could be either about a person or a group or an organization. So in a nutshell, it's basically the impression that you make on others. That is what personal brand is. And in the market that we're in, as far as the Salesforce ecosystem that we're all living in, it is incredibly important to find a way to stand out, because otherwise you're just one of the masses and you're blending in. You otherwise look like a clone like anybody else. So it's incredibly important to stand out in some way. That's what personal branding is all about. So you can also think of personal branding as somewhat similar to corporate branding. When we think about some of these global brands, there are certain impressions that we have in terms of the type of product or the type of interaction that we're going to have, or the kinds of things that they do, or what we expect either their website or their physical location or any event that they do to be like. We have a certain expectation. Why? How do we have that expectation? Because those companies sat down and purposely defined, here's what we want people to experience associated with us, with our company, regardless of whether it's online or in person or over the phone or through email. We want them to have a similar kind of experience. So it's very, very similar to corporate branding. Let me tell you a little bit about who am I? Like, what do I know about personal branding? Well, I'll tell you. It was about 2007, 2008 when I first got involved in Salesforce. Salesforce landed on my lap. I was a full-time employee at GE Capital, and I became responsible for sales. I was responsible for another CRM previously. And one day my boss turned to me and she said, well, we're going to move off of Siebel, our old CRM, onto Salesforce. And you need to be responsible for moving 2 of our sub-businesses off of Siebel onto Salesforce. And you need to go live in 3 months. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. I immersed myself in all of the materials that I needed. GE certainly provided me with training on learning how to be a Salesforce admin. So I immersed myself in all of that, and I did my job and everything was great. And all of a sudden I saw that there were layoffs happening all over the place at GE Capital. And I found myself anticipating that if everybody else is getting laid off, I'm going to get laid off soon too. And when I tried looking around for another job, and I was realizing that it was hard to stand out. What makes me look different from, first of all, any other GE employee or any other employee who has Salesforce experience or any other employee who has IT project management experience or CRM experience? I looked like a gazillion other job candidates. And I realized this is not going to work. How do I stand out? And that's when I immersed myself in all things personal branding. I didn't even know the phrase personal branding. I didn't even know what it meant. I sort of stumbled on it. I was looking online just in terms of advice on how to find a job and how to stand out as a job candidate. And that's where I first learned about even the concept of personal branding. And then I basically became a student of personal branding by watching YouTube videos and reading books and listening to podcasts all about personal branding. And I embraced all of it. And that allowed me to totally take control of my career, take control of the path of what I was going to do next. It went above and beyond looking for another job. Basically, once I immersed myself in everything about personal branding, I decided I'm not going to be looking for another job. I'm going to be starting my own company. And all of these other companies that I'm applying for as job candidates, they're going to be coming to me looking for my services as a Salesforce guide for them, as a Salesforce expert, as the Salesforce consultant, the admin, the trainer that they need in order to help them with the struggles that they have. I'm not going to be one of thousands and thousands of PDF resumes that I upload online. I'm going to have them find me and they will reach out to me. And honestly, here we are now, many years later, that's exactly what's happening. So that's what I know about personal branding. It's about learning how to stand out from the crowd. And it takes a lot of work. And the formula that I'm about to teach you is actually, it's very simple. It's a very simple, none of it is rocket science, but it does take a lot of effort to put it together and to be consistent about it. And just like planting a tree, it takes time. It will not happen overnight, but it does work regardless of any industry that you choose to focus on. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about why create a personal brand. I gave you a couple of sort of hints about that already. Well, it helps you build your own credibility. It helps you showcase your own specialty. Building a personal brand helps you leave your own mark. It helps you distinguish yourself from others. It helps you connect with whatever your target audience is, whoever they might be. It helps you distinguish yourself from your competition. Now, let's take that word competition for a minute and focus on that. You might say, I don't have any competition. Yes, you do. Even if you are not running your own business, even if you are an employee, even if you are maybe not even yet employed at your first Salesforce related job, but you're trying to get a Salesforce related job, your competition is every other job candidate who's submitting their resume too. So you have a lot of competition. It helps you focus your energy and it helps you build your confidence. So now let's talk a little bit about how to go about doing it. How do we craft your personal brand? Now that you understand what a personal brand is and why it's so important, how do we go about doing it? All right. First thing is, do not brag about yourself. This is the one thing, probably the biggest myth about personal branding. People think it's, oh, I need to brag about myself online. It's the exact opposite. You need to focus on how you can help others instead of focusing on, here are all of the new certificates, Salesforce certifications that I've accumulated. Here are all of the Trailhead badges that I've just earned. Here's the new rank on Trailhead that I've achieved. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I'll be the first one to tell you. Instead, if you can focus on, here's a solution to a problem that you probably have. Here's an article that you might benefit from. Here's a YouTube video, even if it was created by someone else, that you might find beneficial. That is personal branding. Because even if it's content created by someone else, you are presenting yourself as, here is something for you that you might benefit from. It's not about me, it's about you, your audience, whoever your audience is. That's an incredibly important distinction. Okay, so what you have to do in order to craft your brand, first, you need to think about and understand what is the value that you are providing to other people. You have to think about, what promise is it to your audience, to your followers? What return on investment? What will they get from following you online, from listening to you speak, from opening up the email that you sent them? What is it that they are going to get in exchange? You need to define all of this first in order to craft your personal brand. You need to identify what are your core values and what really matters the most to you, you need to identify what are your core passions, what gets you most excited, what topics, what areas of focus, what industries, what kinds of problems do get you the most excited. You need to identify those things. You need to identify your talents. What is it that you do better than most other people? Now, I'll tell you, let's go back over here for a minute before I go on to the next slide. I'll tell you a little bit about like how the abbreviated version of how I answered this for myself, these questions. I know for myself, what gets me most excited is solving problems. So helping other people solve problems gets me very excited. Add on top of that, an element of technology, because in the end, I am a technology geek. So solving problems through technology, I get even more excited about that. Solving problems in a way that also introduces simplicity and efficiency, taking a broken process or a manual, painful process and making it more efficient, maybe even making it automated, that gets me even more excited. So you add on top of that, you have solving problems plus technology plus streamlining and simplifying business processes. Those are the things that get me super excited. What are my core values? Speaking what I see as the truth. In other words, if someone tells me that they want my help in automating a very manual, broken, cumbersome, illogical process, I'm not just going to just say yes, absolutely. No, I'm going to tell them that makes absolutely no sense. Of course, I could build a flow or a process builder in order to automate that. That makes absolutely no sense. So no, I'm not going to do that. That's part of my core values. I will not just blindly do whatever it is that the business person is asking for. And that's very important as well, by the way. I'm going up to the very top. Understand the value that you're providing to others. The value that I'm providing is I am not only helping them solve problems, I'm also saying to them what probably most other people won't say to them, and not because I'm trying to be rude or obnoxious or contradictory or anything like that. It's just, this is what I see as being important and of benefit to the people I'm engaging in. And at the same time, I'm trying to help them and teach them and allow them to get to the next level of whatever it is they are looking to achieve. Now I'm going to drop down all the way onto the bottom. Identify your talents. What do you do better than most other people? I would say for myself, it probably goes around communication, because in the end, is my process builder or flow or database architecture all that better than anyone else's? No, not necessarily. Anyone else could do the same kind of thing. But what I've found is that a lot of people struggle with communication, getting whatever message it is that they need to get out, that a lot of people struggle with that. And for some reason, that's why a lot of people love my either public speaking or they ask me to do training. And I'm like, it's really not a big deal. Like what's there to train on? Like, let's say how to create a contact and associate that contact to an account and then start logging activities against it. Like, it's really not a big deal. But for whatever reason, people enjoy my style of communication, which I think is a little bit weird, but okay, if that's something that I happen to have as a talent and I'm really not putting that much effort into it, I'm just communicating the way I naturally communicate, okay, then that's great. So couple all of those things together, and I've realized that I do need to communicate more. And that's why that's one of the reasons why I'm so engaged in social media and within the Salesforce community and creating videos, whether I'm actually posting them to YouTube or just directly posting them to my LinkedIn account or to my Instagram account, because people are, and I'm not doing it for the likes or the followers. I'm doing it because when someone tells me either privately or as a direct comment on the thing, on whatever post it is, they're actually telling me, oh my gosh, this solved a problem that I had. To me, that's a huge win. That completely makes my day. Anyway, so this is how to craft your personal brand and the questions that you need to ask yourself. So the next thing that you need to do is you need to identify the top 5 skills that people seem to notice in you. You need to then go ahead and craft a statement about your specialty. Include the top 5 skills, weave in the most important values and passions, everything that we've identified, mentioned on the prior slide. Add a tagline to your brand. What is the tagline? The tagline is basically that one sentence that essentially summarizes who you are in a way that allows you to stand out. This is really, really hard to do. I'll tell you what I did for myself in order to stand out in the Salesforce community. A couple of years ago, I realized, okay, people seem to notice the fact that I used to be an attorney, even though that has absolutely nothing, in my mind, it has nothing to do with what I do today. I used to be a practicing attorney, and now I'm a Salesforce consultant, Salesforce trainer, Salesforce partner. Okay, so because that is within the Salesforce community, particularly unique, I turned that into my tagline. Former attorney turned Salesforce consultant, Salesforce geek, Salesforce whatever. And then about a year ago, I had a granddaughter, so I decided to throw in grandpa as a prefix to everything that I said before, really just to sort of like be funny a little bit. And also, I mean, it's the truth, but it also allows me to stand out when people remember, when they see that, they remember it. And I can tell you how many times I went to a large Salesforce conference and someone that I've never met with before happened to, get introduced to me or see me like, oh yeah, I follow you on LinkedIn. And those are the words that come out of their mouth next. Yeah, former attorney turned Salesforce. That's what they say. Or yeah, grandpa turned. That's what comes out of their mouth. So that's what the tagline is about. And again, it is very, very hard to come up with a tagline, but you need to think creatively, try a couple of different things, and you need to find something that is succinct, just not even an actual sentence, a couple of words, in order to help you stand out, to summarize who you are and why you're different. Next, use your authentic voice. By the way, for me, this again is something that a lot of people make comments about to me regarding my communication style. If I think something is stupid, I won't hesitate to say, I won't necessarily use the word stupid. Sometimes I do, but I won't hesitate to say that I think it's dumb. Or let's say a particular Salesforce feature that I think is stupid. Yeah, useless. I won't hesitate to say it. Use your authentic voice. Speak like a real person, like a human, like someone that has a real opinion. Don't always try to use corporate speak. Don't always try to candy coat everything, because people will feel that they're not interacting with a real individual. That's really, really important. Next, embrace your imperfections. All of us have strengths, all of us have weaknesses. Those things that are weaknesses for you, instead of trying to hide them, whenever it comes up, it's okay to acknowledge it. I'll give you a perfect example for myself. When I'm having a meeting with someone, let's say we're gathering business requirements, they're telling me, hey, can we explore doing this kind of automation in Salesforce? Or here's what our business process is like. Even if it's like in a Zoom meeting, I will pull up a blank, whether it's in Evernote or in a Google Doc, I'll pull up a blank document and I will start writing down whatever. And I'm sharing my screen. I want them to see my notes of what I'm jotting down. And a lot of times they'll be like, well, you really have to write it down. Yes, I need to write it down because I know if I don't write it down, there's no way in the world I'm going to remember it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. And I use it as a benefit. I turn it into a benefit because I also want my client to see my notes. Like, did I actually get what you articulated or what you just asked for? Did I actually get it accurate? Did I write something incorrectly? And by documenting the business requirements, by the way, it also gives you some level of formality to have the client sign off on, this is what you asked for. Is that correct? Yes or no? And okay, we're going to build whatever it is based on these notes, based on this documentation. So later on, after you build it, and the person says, oh, wait a minute, that's not what I asked for, but what about the blah, blah, blah? Let's go back to the document. Was that written anywhere? Like, we never discussed that. If you want to talk about it, we can absolutely talk about it now. We can always introduce it as an enhancement, but we never discussed that previously. Like, let's go back to the notes. So again, imperfection on my part. I can't possibly remember everything. I need to write everything down as far like from a notes perspective. And I embrace it. I don't hide it whatsoever. I turn it into a benefit of leveraging it as documentation for part of the project. Okay, next, let's talk about building your communication skills. It's one thing to be able to identify for yourself, okay, here's what I do, here are my strengths, here are my passions, here's what I'm interested in doing. You need to build out your communication skills. What does this mean? We're talking about writing skills that relate to emails or proposals, even text messages, your social media posts, any comments that you make on somebody else's social media posts, any blog article that you might write. It includes verbal when it comes to phone calls, any in-person interactions, as well as public speaking. And it also means on video. This relates not only to making videos on YouTube or posting online, it also correlates to video conferencing or any other kind of video recording that is used for online. For example, you might be, someone asked you to build something out. You went ahead and you built it out. Now you want to create a video walkthrough for them, showing them, by the way, based on the conversation that we had last week, I went ahead and I built it out in the sandbox. Let me walk you through how it works. Create a video showing them how to do it. It's more efficient and it allows you to take the time to explain and to show, here's what I did based on our conversation. If you don't have the proper communication skills for working on video, you're going to struggle with this. So it's really, really important. You need to build relationships with existing influencers. You also need to know how to say no to opportunities or projects or relationships that you're not comfortable with. You also need to consistently produce strategic and helpful content. Again, like I mentioned before, this is not a quick win. This is not something that, like, this is not a short-term game. This is a long-term game. And the long-term rewards are tremendous. I'll go so far to say that the long-term rewards are probably beyond anything you can imagine today. That is a very important point. Probably most importantly, you need to listen. You need to listen to your target audience. You need to listen to what's going on within the ecosystem that you are working in. You need to listen to what your competitors are doing. You need to listen to the feedback that others are giving you. I'm not saying that everyone that gives you feedback is going to be correct, but if a lot of people tell you, listen, I don't understand, you talk too fast, you talk in a way, your tone is a little bit aggressive, you need to pay attention to that. You need to respond to it. You need to absorb that feedback and adjust accordingly. Okay, now let's pivot and we're going to talk about how to share your personal brand. This part is probably the easiest out of everything. So after you've done everything else, we're talking about sharing your personal brand. This happens through personal introductions. A friend introduces you to someone else. That is an opportunity for you to share your personal brand. During internal meetings in your current job, someone introduces you to a new colleague that you've never met before. That is an opportunity for you to shine, to share your personal brand, to make it clear to this new person in your audience of who you are, the value that you provide, and how you can help them. This also correlates to blogging. And if you don't have a blog, you don't have to have a blog. The concept of blogging still applies, even if you're going to post something on LinkedIn. I'm going to say post something. For those of you who don't know, you could just make a regular post on LinkedIn. In other words, you just take a link to an article from someone else and you post it on LinkedIn with a one-sentence comment. Of course, you can absolutely do that. But on LinkedIn, you can actually publish your own full-blown article as a blogging platform. So you don't even need to have your own dedicated blog. You can use LinkedIn or you can use Medium as your own blogging platform. You can also absolutely leverage social media, which includes LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. By the way, let's not forget, there's the Salesforce Trailblazer community. You can interact with people on there. You can post any solutions, any best practices, any advice that you have for other people. You can post it in any of these platforms in order to help your target audience. And lastly, let's also not forget, if you're working in an organization, particularly larger organizations, and you're using Chatter internally, you can also leverage Chatter as a more narrowly focused social media platform where the audience is your coworkers at work. Next, think about public speaking opportunities. User groups all over the world are often looking for someone to share best practices, share insights on new features, on different apps, on different solutions to common problems. There are many public speaking opportunities. There are also speaking opportunities internally within your own organization, wherever it is that you're working today. I am willing to bet that there are going to be people there who want to hear from you about any tips, any advice, any best practices, sharing some success stories on things that you've done or things that you've come across. So there are user group events, just like I mentioned a moment ago. You can also create your own public speaking opportunities. You can record videos and then post them on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you like. Also, participate in Salesforce in the Trailblazer community, both online and in in-person user groups. Especially now during the pandemic, where almost all of the user groups are online only, like this one, where you can attend other user groups around the globe without ever leaving home by simply clicking on a Zoom link. Participate. You have no idea where you might just come in as an attendee and someone asks a question that you happen to know the answer, and you can make an impression on other people by being the one who happens to have the answer to a particular use case, to a particular problem that you've never anticipated. And within the Trailblazer community, it becomes a very comfortable and non-intimidating environment where you can share some of these insights and best practices that you have. Similarly, when we talk about online, I'm not only talking about like Zoom meetings. I'm also talking about in the online Trailblazer community, the community groups that similar to like Facebook groups, where there's dialogue going on online. People are posting questions and challenges and, hey, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z. Can you help out? There's an endless amount of opportunities for you to share any best practices and tips that you might have to make your mark within the Salesforce community. So then the question becomes, okay, what is it that I should share exactly? You could share what you're learning. So in other words, even if it's something that you've never actually done before, maybe now is the first time, for whatever reason, you're learning how to build APIs between Salesforce and some other tool. You haven't actually done it yet. You're simply learning about it. You can share that. That's awesome to share. Share what resources you're using, what it is that you're learning, and how excited you are about actually doing it in the future. You can share information about who you recently met. You can share information about what projects you're currently working on and with whom. You could share what new features you've uncovered and even who introduced you to those new features. You can share content about which Salesforce features you find exciting or horrible and why you have that reaction to those Salesforce features. You can also share which business problems you solved using the Salesforce platform, new ideas and best practices that you uncovered. Make sure to give credit to the original source of whoever initially introduced you to those things. So just definitely make sure to do that, because those people are going to get upset. Key concepts to remember. So it's not all about you. Give more than you take. It's totally okay to share existing content that was created by others, so long as that content is aligned with your brand. If that content is not aligned with your brand, don't share it, because you are diluting your brand. You're doing the opposite of defining your brand. So only share existing content that was created by other people if it's aligned with your brand. Stay consistent. Again, that's probably the hardest part out of everything. And in the end, when it comes down to it, do good work, do the right thing, and live your values. Very, very important. Stay true to yourself, because if you don't stay true to yourself, it's not going to feel authentic. You're not going to come across in your own voice. It's going to feel scripted. It's going to feel forced. You're not going to like what you're doing. Really, really important. Next, I have these resources that I'm going to share. I'm actually going to share a link with all of you to download the PDF of this entire presentation, so you have access to all of these resources. And with that, we can open it up to Q&A if anyone has any questions for me. I see that there's a bunch of questions in the chat. Let's see what we have going on over here. I'm going to rewind a little bit. When building personal branding in the Salesforce ecosystem, is it best to focus only on a single area in Salesforce or jack of all trades? That is a great question. I would say it really depends on you. It depends on, like, for example, I'll say for myself, I don't see myself as being a jack of all trades when it comes to Salesforce. My area of strength relates to being like a Salesforce admin type. In other words, not a developer. I'm not strong in anything associated with being a Salesforce developer. So Salesforce admin type of responsibilities. And when it comes to industry, I would say there are many, many industries where I have tremendous expertise, but there are many industries I know nothing about. And there are many Salesforce products that I know very little about. So for example, CPQ, Datorama, Einstein Analytics. I know very little about those. I have not had an opportunity to play around much with those tools. But at the same time, if we're talking about Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Force.com, I forget what they call it today. They keep changing the name of it. Pardot, Marketing Cloud. I have Community Cloud, which is now Experience Cloud. I have tremendous experience in those platforms. And again, intersected with and PSP, with many, many different industries. So I would say when building your personal brand, focus on those things that you have solid experience in. And that's it. You're staying true to yourself, and there's less to actually remember. Next question. In terms of personal branding, how would you deal with imposter syndrome? It's very easy to look at others in the ecosystem and feel inferior instantly. Mark, this is a great question. And what I would say as it relates to this is don't worry so much about others and if others have more skills. And the other thing that more skills and more experience. The other thing I'll say is this. Let's say, put yourself in the position of someone who, let's say, is struggling with Excel. Let's make believe that you're relatively new to Excel and you're trying to become more familiar with Excel. There's more than just one source of content out there to learn Excel. There are a gazillion different authors, YouTubers, or just other people who've created content on how to use Excel. You might even do a search in YouTube. So we're narrowing it down to type of content is video on YouTube and limited to one platform of YouTube. You might do a search on YouTube. Let's pick a little bit more specific within Excel. Let's say you're looking up how to do, you don't know how to do a VLOOKUP. Someone mentioned to you, oh yeah, just do a VLOOKUP in Excel. Like, oh my God, I don't know how to do that. So you go into YouTube and you do a search for how to VLOOKUP in Excel. And you might watch the first video that Google thought was, this is probably the best one for you. This is the most popular one. And you watch it and like, I don't even understand this part. I have trouble understanding. I know they're talking English, but I have trouble understanding what this person is saying. You move on to the next one. And then you move on to the next one. And finally, of the multiple videos that are there, you don't care about how much experience the people in these videos have. You care about whether or not those people who are making the video, whether or not their explanation, their tutorial resonates with you and solves your problem of learning how to use Excel to do a VLOOKUP. Who cares about all of the other people and how many years of experience or how many Excel certifications they have? You don't care. I certainly don't care. You just care about who's going to solve this problem for me. So don't worry about imposter syndrome. I'm not trying to say imposter syndrome is not real. It is very real. I would say that's not your problem. Your problem is, am I competent enough to teach someone on this one thing that I'm about to communicate, that I'm about to share? And if the answer is yes, you just move forward and you go ahead and do it. Okay, next. When passion and experience is in totally different areas in Salesforce, which one should we give priority while building a brand? This is a good question. When passion and I'm going to read it again. When passion and experience is in total different areas. So if let's say your experience is in financial services and your passion is in healthcare. So totally different industries, right? You don't want to continue doing the same things that you were doing before. You don't want to work in the same industry that you were working in before. So the question is, excuse me, what is it that I communicate? How do I craft my personal brand where there's an intersection? Because right now I don't see it as an intersection at all. I'm going to use myself as an example. former attorney turned Salesforce geek. So what is it that a lot of times people ask me, how is it that you switched careers like that? And I often tell them the things that drove me, that inspired me to pursue, that initially inspired me to pursue a career in law was what? I really love solving problems for people and for companies. And I pursued a career in law with the expectation that I will be, by being an attorney, I will be able to solve people's problems where my toolkit is going to be the legal system. And why is it that I'm so equally passionate and excited about everything that I do today as a Salesforce consultant and Salesforce trainer? It's because that passion is actually exactly the same. I get a huge thrill out of solving problems for people and for companies. The only difference is the toolkit that I'm using. Instead of the legal system, I'm using the Salesforce platform to solve those problems. So in a similar way, even if your prior experience is in industry A and your passion is in industry B, I guarantee there are going to be some elements from your prior experience that you can extrapolate and, define them in maybe even in the most generic way to apply them moving forward to where your passion is. So just focus on what is it that, which element, even if you hated your prior job, I'm willing to bet there are some elements that you either tolerated or were excited about. Some things, whatever it might, maybe it's simply working with others. Maybe it's simply the gathering of the business requirements. Maybe it's of the Q&A testing. Maybe it's just of building code to solve problems. So whatever it might be, identify those passions without necessarily bringing along the baggage that came along with the prior experience in order to focus on moving forward. And hopefully that helps. As a quick note, in public speaking front, trailblazer community groups are regulating. Yes, 100%. Will the recording and slide deck be shared? I will be sharing the slide deck. Yes, I don't know about the recording. I have 15 years experience in IT and 9 years in Salesforce. My focus in Salesforce. How do I start my personal branding? So I'll read the question again. Sorry. I have 15 years experience in IT and 9 years in Salesforce. My focus is in Salesforce. It sounds to, first of all, there are plenty of people like myself who started working in Salesforce, and I had minimal background in IT. I was a philosophy major and went to law school. Like, I never had any formal education in database architecture, design, or project management, or business requirements gathering, or change management, or anything like that, or building change sets or record types. Like, I had no formal training on any of that whatsoever. I learned all of it on the job. So my point of bringing that up is, if you've had 15 years experience in IT, that means you have tremendous experience in many other many concepts like business requirements gathering or coding, or knowing how to work with integrations between multiple systems, or database architecture, or keeping data clean. Like, I could probably keep going on and on depending on what your role has been for the 15 years you've been working in IT. Couple that with Salesforce and the things that you've been doing in the Salesforce platform and the things that you want to be doing within the Salesforce ecosystem. To me, that's where you're going to find how to define your personal brand of what is it that gets you excited? What is it that you want to be focusing on moving forward? So I hope that helps. That's it. I don't see any other questions. If no one has any other questions, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And like I said, I will be sharing this presentation with all of you.
and it was too much knowledgeable for the newbies like me in the ONA as well. And so would request the participants, if they have any question, please do post in the chat. In the meanwhile, David, if you can please share the presentation with them. Yeah. Pardon, David, you are on mute and you are trying to speak something.
Sorry. I'm going to be posting the link in just a moment in the chat to
Yeah.
download the PowerPoint. Yeah, to download the PowerPoint. Anyone else have any other questions for me?
Also, in case like anyone has missed to attend the session or want to revisit the session, by Monday, the session recording will be uploaded on our YouTube channel of New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. So please do check it out. And after that, also, in case you have any doubts or want to discuss something, please feel free to reach out David Giller for the same. Yeah.
I put the link in the chat, by the way, so you can feel free to cut and paste it, save it, share it with others, whatever you like.
Sure. The presentation will also be there on the official website of New Delhi Salesforce Developer Group. Also, the participants can check it from here as well. We will be holding here for a while so that they can copy paste the link.
Beautiful.
In the meantime, if anyone have any question, you can please feel free to post in the chat. David, I think like we don't have any more doubt from the participants, so we can wind up this session. Thank you so much for being a speaker with us. And thank you to all the participants. I hope this session was quite valuable to them. And we can see many more personal brandings in the upcoming time in the Ohana. And yeah, so thank you so much everyone for joining, and would request everyone to stay safe in this testing times of COVID-19, this pandemic, and see you soon in the coming sessions as well. Thank you everyone.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. Bye bye. Yeah. Thank you everyone.